Hey everybody. I know the last set of notes we did were pretty long, so I'm going to keep this one short. We're just going to look at a couple examples. But what we're going to work on tonight is taking the percent solving skills that we learned in the last lesson and apply them to real-world situations. A lot of times when we see percents used is in statistical situations, like surveys, elections, research studies, stuff like that. In this case, we have a survey. A survey asked 220 students to name their favorite pasta dish. Find the percent of students who chose the given pasta dish. So this is the type of problem that we can represent using a proportion or the percent equation, right? We can do that with any percent problem. So like if this was a proportion, right, that means two fractions would be equal to each other. Now here we're actually looking for the percent. It says find the percent of students who chose the given pasta dish. So since we're looking for the percent, we'll just use the variable p to represent that, and we know the percent is always over 100 when we're doing a proportion. Now we know the survey also asked 220 students. So that's the total number of students that were asked. So that is the base of this problem, or the whole number, the whole amount. Now for this first problem, we're looking at macaroni and cheese. So our macaroni and cheese is right here, 33 students. 33 students right here. So we could solve this proportion, right? We could cross multiply, do the division. We can also express this problem though as a percent equation, right? Since we know 33 is the part, we could write 33 equals the percent, and remember in this case the percent is a decimal when we're using the percent equation, times 220. And I think a better way to write this would be 33 equals 220 p, right? Now you can really solve it either way you want. I personally prefer to use the percent equation, so I'm going to do that right here. I'm going to solve for p. I'm going to divide by 220. 220. Now, once I do that, I have p by itself over here, and I just need to do 33 times 220, which gives me 0.15. And 0.15, remember, in the percent equation, the percent is a decimal, so we're going to write that as a percent by moving the decimal to the right 2 places. And we get 15%. 15% of students surveyed said they liked macaroni and cheese. We can do the same thing for lasagna. Okay, we know lasagna, we had 40 students said they liked that, so that's the part, once again, over the whole. The whole in this case is 220, and that equals the percent over 100. Now, once again, we could write that as a percent equation. This time the part is 40 equals 220 p, the whole times the percent. Okay, let's solve the proportion for this one. I'm going to cross multiply 40 times 100. 4 times 1 is 4, and then I have 3 zeros, equals 220 p. So notice I cross multiplied and I still have the 220p on the right side, the same thing I have over here, right? So these things really aren't that far off. And when I do 4,000 divided by 220, I get a decimal. I get p equals, I get 18.18 repeating. So I want to round this to the nearest percent, so I'm just going to say my answer is 18%, which is the exact same thing we would have gotten if we would have used the percent equation right here. Here we have some survey data on music preferences. This survey was conducted in a Wisconsin high school, and the amount of students that were surveyed was 250. 250 students were surveyed. And we want to know how many of the students surveyed like classical music. So if I'm looking at this chart here, I notice the classical music is 2% of those surveyed. So once again, I can set up a proportion to solve this or an equation. Right? I know 250 total students were surveyed, so that goes in the denominator. My percent fraction is going to be 2 out of 100 because it's 2%, 2 out of 100. And I'm looking for the part here. What is the number of students that like classical music, right? That's a part of the total students that were surveyed. Now I could also use the percent equation, which I always like. We could do A equals. Now the percent here I know is 2, and 2% as a decimal is 0.02 times B, the whole here, the base, is 250. A equals 0.02 times 250. Now, if I had to choose a method to use here to solve this, I like the percent equation because I already have A by itself. All I need to do is multiply 0.02 times 250, which equals 5. A equals 5. 5 students of the ones that were surveyed at this high school like classical music, right? And we could use that same process to find who likes country, how many like rock and roll, how many like alternative, and how many like rap. All right, last example here. Here we have another survey, another graph from a survey. Oh, this one looks suspiciously familiar. This data, though, was taken from a survey conducted in a West Virginia high school. If 5 of the students surveyed said they like rock and roll, how many students were surveyed, right? So here we're looking for how many students were surveyed. Now, we know that 5 of the students said they like rock and roll. So we need to look at the rock and roll percentage here. Now, I'm going to set my percent equation up first. In this case, 5 is the part, because 5 said they like rock and roll. We're looking for the whole. We're looking for the amount, the number of students that were actually surveyed. So we'd say 5 equals 13% is 0.13 times B. There's my percent equation. We could also set up a proportion, as always. 5 over B equals 13 over 100. Now, if I'm going to solve for B here, I'm going to divide by 0.13 to find my whole amount, and I get B equals 38.46, and that decimal just keeps going. Now, in this case, we know we're not actually going to survey 38.46 people, right? It's tough to survey a part of a person. So we're going to round this to B equals 38. There were probably about 38 people that were surveyed. Sometimes that happens in surveys when you survey a weird number of people and you end up getting a decimal for a percent, but it's easy to make the graph look better if we just round those to clean, even numbers. So 38 students were surveyed. All right, that's our last example. Go ahead, finish up your notes. Don't forget to submit, and I will see you all in class.